Welcome to the New England Film Festival, and I have here my first guest of 2025 edition, which is Brian. Brian, let me tell you, let me say your last name. Brian Lewandowski. So let me introduce myself. My name is Aldrin. Besides the New England Film Festival director, I am a writer, I am a producer, I'm an actor, and I'm a film director. I've been working for about, I would say, I don't know, 20 years. And I have a few films, and most of them are short films. And I'm working on my first feature films currently.
Hi, my name is Brian Lewandowski. I'm also a filmmaker myself. I've probably been doing filmmaking since I'd say about like 10 years ago or so. I've kind of got into it very heavily, you could say. I'm based in Pittsburgh, Kansas, and I'm an indie filmmaker just like yourself. I write, produce, direct, I shoot. I dabble in VFX and things of that nature. Obviously, getting into the AI stuff as well. So, happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much. One of the things in the New England Film Festival is we work direct with students, and one of my mission is to try to teach them or try to give them ideas of how can you made your film, because they always put obstacles, and I know it's extremely very difficult, and we want to talk about that in a few. I have here a film that you sent me. The name is The Clayman.
Yep. Yes,
and
sir.
with your permission, I'm going to put a little piece. I'm very careful with the imagery, and I'm very careful with what I'm going to show, but I'm going to show a clip just to start talking about your film.
Absolutely.
Let's see. The Clayman. Of course, I took the sounds off, and because I don't want to show the product, of course. And The Clayman is a horror short film.
Yes, sir.
All right. What was the inspiration for this movie?
That's a great question. I think honestly, for me, I've been kind of dabbling in a lot of drama and things of that nature. So I kind of usually the short films I made prior to this one, I was doing like a lot of really heavy subject matter. And so for me, I wanted to do something that was kind of fun, that could kind of showcase my skills as a director, a VFX artist, a cinematographer, and a writer. But also I wanted to just kind of do something fun, something that was a little light. I didn't want to do something that was so deep and kind of over the top in terms of playing with really heavy, serious themes. So for me, I honestly just wanted to kind of go back to my roots as a kid. I just wanted to kind of get back into why I got into filmmaking. So I was always really obsessed with monster movies growing up. So I was like, initially I was like, okay, what can I do that's really fun? I can't sort of get lost in the weeds and turn it into something serious. I have a tendency to start with something fun as a premise, and then slowly, the more I get into it, try to make it deeper and more serious as I write it. So I was like, okay, if I make a monster movie, it's really hard to screw that up, in other words. So for me, my thing was, I was like, okay, how can I make a big sort of monster movie and get that sort of production value on screen with little money? And then I started thinking, okay, I can do a monster movie where I can literally make a big creature and do it really cheap. And I realized, okay, I can buy a mask. I can have an actor wear that mask. I can remove the edge of the mask and whatnot, really build a creature. And then I was like, okay, so I can make a clay monster man story thing. So in a lot of ways, it kind of started out as trying to figure out what can I do in a real practical sense on a low budget. So I started kind of piecing things together that way, just trying to be very practical. And then I realized, okay, it's about a clay monster. So I was like, okay, I'm an artist. I used to sculpt, and I used to dabble in different kinds of mediums and things. So then I was like, okay, let's just make a story about a guy that does something, and then we'll kind of build the story from there. And the more I just kind of dug into that, the theme of the story for me was, a lot of times as artists, we think we're making something good, and we realize when we step away from it for a little while, whether that's an hour, 2 hours, or we go to sleep and wake up the next morning or whatever, what we tend to see once we're objective about what we've created is actually not good at all in terms of where we left it. And so for me, I was like, that's a really haunting, horrible thing to see as an artist, to realize what you thought you were creating at the onset, you thought it was good and perfect or human even, and then you realize a day later you come back to that same piece of art and you realize, oh, this is monstrous. This is literally, I've created a monster. This is nowhere near how good I thought it was, and you've literally created a monster. And so for me, I was like, okay, that's the story. So find a way to make a practical monster come to life without it breaking the bank, so to speak. So for me, the whole nature of the movie was to play with that theme on a visual level, but without sort of writing a story that was kind of getting bogged down in a really serious message that was hitting the audience over the nose with something. So I wanted to kind of play that theme out visually. If people want to dig deeper, they can see that sort of thing happening in the story without it being a something that was written on the nose and kind of hammered into people's heads.
Let's see, Eli, the other piece that I have here, and I have another question.
Okay, yeah.
It caught my attention because how one character can tell you story.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you did the photography? Did you work with a director of photography? How was that? Because for me, it's extremely visual, and yeah, it's very beautiful.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
No, absolutely. It's and how was the connection between you and the DP? Because
so
requires that.
Yeah. I, funny enough, I actually initially when I started looking around, and actually who you saw in that clip, the character you're talking about, my friend Travis Casey, he's the one that starred in the movie. Initially, I was wanting to find a DP. I was trying to find a someone locally that I can get or hire or whatever, a friend. And the more I looked around, the more I realized a good DP would have been at least a couple hours away from where I live at the time, or now rather. And I was like, well, I could spend a lot of money doing it, or I can just do it myself. And I knew I was asking a lot. So I shot the movie myself. And, one of the things I kind of wanted the short film to be was kind of an exercise to see what I can get away with doing as much as I could without ruining the production value, you could say. So, so for me, it was just kind of, I wanted to keep everything so simple in the setup. So like every lighting setup is basically just your typical sort of 3 light sort of setup. And I didn't want to kind of overdo that. And I felt like we just kept a softbox in his face as much as possible, kept the shadows really soft. I feel like we can get away with a lot, especially with a movie where you're playing in the dark a lot. You can kind of light a little bit of the background. And actually we actually shot that all in the daylight because I only had a couple lights, and I tried to use 3 lights wherever I could half the time, because I'm not, focusing in on him as he's moving. A light stand is falling beside me, and I'm like grabbing a light stand half the time. But for a lot of those light setups, it's just 2 lights. But we shot it literally in broad daylight around noon to like maybe 5 or like sunset-ish at the time. And the movie takes place largely when it's raining out. So I actually used the window light as another light fixture in the background to kind of help expose some of the background. So that actually kind of helped me get away with a lot too. But I shot it myself, and I had a great time doing it. And I thought at first I was actually really excited to try to get some more people to help me shoot the thing so I can focus more on the directing and the character stuff that was happening. And so I could work more with Travis, who did a phenomenal job in the movie too, by the way. I couldn't be more grateful and appreciative of all the hard work he put in as an actor. And he's also a fellow filmmaker. So there was little things where if I needed to tape something up if I needed a grip, he would kind of step in and do little things like that to help out. It's just literally me and him that whole movie. But yeah, a lot of people, didn't really kind of show up when I kind of asked them to, and not that they owed me anything. It's just, as filmmakers, you try to get as many people there as you can so that you can do more things on set where it matters. So like I want to be a director. I'm trying to direct. I'm not trying to shoot the movie. But if I have to, then so be it. I have no problem doing it. It's just one of those things where it just took more time away from the fun stuff I wanted to do, which was to work with the actor and kind of get a better performance out of him, or maybe focus more on how to make the monster look better on screen or wherever. So it just kind of, like I said, when we shot it, it took some of my attention away from some of the details in the story, but ultimately, I felt like we did a good enough job to where we didn't take too much away from what was happening in the story and things like that. So
in the movie, what was the difficulties that you encountered?
I would say the most difficult thing for me was really, it was honestly juggling everything. It was just on set. It was like, obviously nothing went right. It's like, you show up, you think you have this gear that I've worked with a lot of all the gear I had for years. And then for some reason, the first day, my little small rig set up on the external monitor I had broke. So I couldn't even use my external monitor I had to see what we were getting every day. Literally shot by shot. I couldn't see what I was shooting because we shot it on anamorphic lenses. So I made it even harder for myself as a DP, knowing that I literally shot the film, not even seeing the playback de-squeezed with the anamorphic lenses that we had. So I kind of, I made it really hard. If I shot with just regular spherical lenses, I would have been able to see the playback on the LCD on the camera. So it was a lot of little things just kind of going wrong and not having an extra set of hands, because even Travis can only do so much as an actor. He's in front of the camera trying to act, so he can't be too preoccupied with what's happening behind the camera. So he has to stay there. So literally there was times where we just didn't have an extra set of hands to literally do something that needed to be done. So we'd have to stop production and kind of figure out how do we hold this external monitor when the rig broke off the top of the camera on the first day. So like, well, we don't have playback. So I guess we'll just put the external monitor on the table, literally face up. So I'm looking at the camera, and then I'm also looking down at the external and back at the camera. So it's a lot of but it was like across the board. It was with everything. It was just like a domino effect. Once one thing broke, of course, the next thing is like almost everything I had was breaking for whatever reason. It just, as filmmakers, it's not something new to any filmmakers. Like, that's just what happened.
That's what happened.
Yeah. And to me, I wanted to challenge myself like that too. I knew it was going to be a nightmare going in there. It wasn't something that surprised me or shocked me. It's like, yeah, that's how it goes. But for me, it was just kind of, that's just kind of like a rite of passage as a filmmaker. You just have to go through the nonsense that comes your way on a set, and you're just better for it. Because I knew if I can handle all the crap coming my way shooting this thing with no extra hands and helping hands rather, I knew once I scaled it up and did it with real money and a feature, we would be great. Because then, at least I could off the shore, I could actually hire a couple helping hands to help even run the camera. It's like I don't even need a DP on a feature film now. I just need someone to operate the camera, and I can light it myself and stuff. Just having an extra set of hands going through this was really that was the big thing. I think we must challenge about it.
Yeah, it is. I mean, doing a this case, I guess, is because it's a short film. You're doing a film long. It's a lot.
It's a whole other ball game. Yeah.
This is more intimate. It's like probably one or a couple of scenarios you shoot them in one place, right?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, and you have that connection with the other person, so you have that ability. But when you have involving a bunch of people, the thing it will
more problems. Yeah. It just accelerates and multiplies the amount of problems, and not to say the people are problems, but it's just more gear to do more setups to shoot more characters and more variables. Yeah, absolutely.
More difficulties. In this case, if you had the possibility to improve anything in this film, what it would be?
I would say, I think in general, I would like to say, because I've stood so close to the elephant, editing it and doing like even like the Foley design, the sound design, things like that. For me, it was like just taking a step away from it for a couple months and really kind of seeing the story. I feel like you could trim off some things and kind of condense it a little bit. Yeah, I would say if I could trim the story down a little bit to make it a little more tighter, I would probably do that. And also, in terms of the monster stuff, I would probably like to do a little bit more with the uh, the ending. I'd like to expand the ending a little bit more and let that breathe. But again, it came down to budget and time. For us, it was like, okay, we have $700. $600 is going to go just to renting the anamorphic lenses. The other $100 is just going to be spent on buying a monster mask that we painted gray to look like clay, so that the actor could wear that. And then we literally painted my older brother Shane, who played the Clayman, gray to match the gray mask and everything. And so, I realized just, that was something where I really kind of stretched myself so thin by that point in the story that I knew when it came to doing practical monster stuff, I stretched myself out way too thin. Because there's little things like him not being able to know exactly what I'm going for as we're shooting stuff. Like, hey, I need your hand to move a little bit higher here, or maybe a little bit lower. There's so many little things when you're doing a practical monster that he kind of had a hard time understanding what we needed. Just me not having shot it and actually working with him and not being behind the camera literally the whole time during that ending of the short, I think I would have allowed me more time to get more done and let that ending breathe a little bit more and ultimately make a better story. It wouldn't have, I wouldn't say end abruptly, because I think that was the goal. So I just want to do something short and sweet and kind of get in, get out, but not, overstay our welcome in terms of, the small budget we had. It can only do so much. I didn't want to make this big, grandiose 5-minute ending where it really stretches your budget to the point where it looks bad. So for me, I was like, I want a short, sweet ending, make the monster look good, and then get out. But at the same time, because I could have only done so much having shot it, making sure his makeup looked good while I'm shooting it. I feel like if I had a DP there as well, I would have been able to get more out of that setup at the time that we shot that, and maybe had a better or more lengthier ending, you could say. That's what I would have
That's
done.
pretty well, Shane. But let me tell you something. It looks great, though.
Thank you.
It looks good. I
Thank you.
mean, I can tell that you are very good doing visual effects or
Yeah, thank you.
I don't. Yeah, because it does. One of the things that caught my attention is besides the treatment that you did with the color
Mm.
is the visual effect.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was something that going into it, I was like, I wanted to do a practical monster. I wanted to make it as real and authentic as possible. And going in, initially, I kind of had the that was really the backup plan. My plan B was to make a practical monster, do it like old school creature features, but I knew there was a kind of limit there. You can only animate the mouth so much with After Effects, and before it breaks down, and that technique only gets you so far. But then I actually, when I was writing the script, I looked at I had some friends that are CG artists, and they work for, like, they do Marvel stuff and whatnot. And I reached out to them and I said, hey, give me some quotes on 2 or 3 visual effects shots at the end of my short. How much would that run me per shot? So if I gave you a 3-second shot, how much would I get if I needed a clay monster or wherever? And I provided you everything you needed in terms of lighting reference and things like that. How cheap can you make that shot for me? And the quotes I got were, I think they were like around the $3,000 to $6,000 range for a 3-second shot, and it wasn't surprising to me. It's something I expected. I actually thought it could be worse, but again, it was one of those things where I'm like, yeah, I could raise that money. I could do that, and I'll have some CG monster stuff. But then the more I thought about it, I'm like, well, I kind of want to have fun. I want to build the monster myself. I want to see it. I want to go through the exercise of building a monster and literally doing everything myself, so I have the experience. I didn't want anybody to come in and save me from that mess I created. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think the visual effects stuff and it was hard too. I mean, I basically threw a lot at myself too. So I'm sitting there editing the movie with the visual effects stuff and having the rotoscope frame by frame where the mask ended and his body began, and it was just a nightmare. It was 3 months for 3 or 4 shots, and just painfully rotoscoping. I mean, literally, most of that stuff we did, I just used images and tracked it onto his chest to keep that edge out. But I thought it looked great. And then actually at the tail end of it, once we got all that done, I was so proud and so happy with the practical stuff. And I couldn't have been more excited to show people about show that stuff to them. And then the more I looked at it, the more I was like, you know what? Once I did this premiere in town for the short, I realized my wife Brittany told me, she goes, you need a bigger ending. You need something that's really going to make people. You can't have this big premiere, have all these people come out supporting you, and then the ending ends in an abrupt way. You need to give them something kind of grandiose that's going to make the audience go, oh my. So then I was like, well, you know what? I can't go back because at the house we shot it at, they sold the house, so they got rid of the house, so we couldn't go back.
Oh.
So exactly, that was my thought of that. And I was like, okay, well, what can I do? So then I had to turn to AI to rebuild a shot, and give them a more grandiose ending, which is the one you saw, the cut I said, you guys. And so I used AI to kind of go back and retouch up those things. And then, that the AI thing was great too, because it showed you the benefit of having a practical monster, how important lighting reference is, using the AI to kind of help beef that stuff up. Because I think a lot of people with the AI boom, what they're doing is they're not doing all that groundwork. They're just asking the AI to create all these things for them. And that's why it looks bad, or it's not going to be this magic thing that they think it's going to be, because I think what makes AI work really well is like anything else. You gotta have your lighting reference, the shapes and forms to give to your CG artist to do something great with it, to make it look photoreal. If you don't give the AI that same thing to build something off of, it's just not going to integrate well into your short film or the live action footage.
So, yeah, it's a tool. It's a tool that you use it right. It works.
Absolutely.
The Clayman. What you were talking about here and there, from this first idea that you had, writing or whatever it was, to the end of the film, how long it took all this production?
Yeah, it took me about a week to write it. It was about a 3-minute short that I wrote. It's about 3 pages. But at the time, I'd say like roughly, we shot it in like 2 weeks. That was the time we had the anamorphic rentals for, roughly. So we had to shoot it in 2 weeks. Let's say like about.
You shoot it in 2 weeks.
Yeah, about 2 weeks. Yeah, give or take, maybe a little bit shorter, a little bit longer, depending on. We kind of did like 3-day chunks in that 2-week time period. But yeah, I'd say probably from script to screen, I'd say maybe about a month and a half, 2 tops. By the time I had it edited and ready to go. So I finished it up sometime last year and just been kind of sitting on it. Honestly, I would say the visual effects stuff actually took me probably the most amount of time. I think I would say most of that. Yeah, and sometimes I would come back and kind of, sit there and work on one shot for maybe a solid week or two. Like some of those took like literally a couple months. I mean, I guess when you factor in the VFX stuff, maybe I think 2 to 3 months total. But like I said, by the time I shot it or wrote it, shot it, it was like a 3-week long thing. And then the visual effects was the rest of that. Like I took about 2 months or so to do visual effects stuff.
Yeah, no, I believe you. To me, the visual effect is the worst because I don't do visual effect. I'm stay away from that.
It's a nightmare, man. It's not. Yeah.
I can't. I know I cannot do it. It gets doing that. No, I try to stay away, but that takes forever and it's extremely costly. That's what.
Yeah. Well, actually, in the short too, like all the a lot of times, just adding rain to the windows in the background of every little shot, that took, surprisingly, I thought that would take the most amount of time. I thought going in there and, if there's a window in the background and your character passes by it, that's a rotoscope. You get the rotoscope, obviously, every little bit. And oddly enough, like that was actually one of the easier parts to do, was really just, doing the Clayman stuff, or like removing the mask. And because even like, there's some shots where his fingers are this way, and then he's got these long nails on each one of the fingers. And every time he moves his finger over that seam, you got to rotoscope every little frame. That's where the bulk of my time went. But but yeah, I was happy to get out of there alive. It got to the point where it was so, monotonous that I just, realized, okay, the next story I do, I want it to be more um, practical. Even if, I'm not trying to write a story about another supernatural monster coming to life. My thing was, uh, do a short film that kind of encompasses the full breadth of what filmmaking is and how much fun you could have doing character stuff with and working with your actors, to lighting and shooting things, and then to building a monster and then doing the sound design stuff. I want to kind of challenge myself and really give myself every excuse I could to do everything on one little film. And so that when I did a feature, there was nothing really that was going to be sort of new to me getting into the feature space. I knew that it was going to be a much longer, more exhausting process doing a feature. I've done features in the past, dramas and whatnot, but nothing to the degree that I knew if I did a Clayman feature film, it would just be insane, because all the amount of VFX that would have to go into building a monster every other 10 minutes in your movie is just going to be the budget's going to blow up. So I wanted to kind of had that. I wanted to do the short film for that reason, to have that experience, knowing if I did do a feature of that scale, what it was going to cost, what it was going to take.
Well, I'm just tell you that it looks great, and congratulations,
Yeah,
because
thank you. I really appreciate that.
I know how hard it is, and I know how hard it is to get something done in a level that you require, which is as much professional looking as possible, and it does, because of the visual effect you did yourself and all that.
Yeah, thank you.
What is next for Brian? Are you working in any other film?
Yeah, actually, I'm excited about the feature film we're doing now. It's called The Witch. So it's basically a grounded witch story, and it's about this teenage girl who runs away from home, and she enlists the help of her boyfriend, who steals his dad's old RV, and they basically go out into the woods on the outskirts of town, where they run into a homeless lady that lives in the woods that literally eats children. So she's been going into this town that they live in and abducting children and eating them. So she literally lives off the land and has a taste for little kids, but they don't know she even exists by the time they run into her in the story. So I want to do something that was kind of very fun, cheap to do, but again, wasn't in the vein of the Clayman, where it kind of relied on a supernatural monster come to life. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And the executive producer on the Clayman, Jeff Allard, is also helping me make that one. He's executive producing that as well. So we've got the script done. I'm actually in the process of casting it right now. We got I haven't announced it yet, but the cast I'm looking at is just insanely talented. Travis Casey, who starred in the Clayman, he's also helping me produce that as well. And yeah, we're looking forward to it, and it's going to be great.
What are you doing? You doing the director?
Yep, I'll be writing, directing, and producing that one as well.
Yeah, well, that's great.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's gonna be a much more darker, serious, character-driven horror film that does actually play with a really serious theme, and it kind of it's something that I knew I wanted to kind of keep it based around two characters in the woods, and really focus on the drama between them and the conflict between them without getting away from the horror. I want to make sure the drama is at the center of that, but also use the horror to kind of amplify conflict between them. So yeah, it's very grounded horror film, you could say that.
Brian, I want to ask you a question. Do you have any, going back to the Clayman, do you have any influence, or do you had any reference of any specific directors of films?
Yeah, I would say, growing up, I was always a Spielberg fan. I mean, I think every filmmaker respects and appreciates Spielberg, so that's kind of an easy answer, I guess. But you know what? I honestly, when I first got into filmmaking, Tim Burton actually was a really big influence on me. I think his visual style is something that I always related to. Because at the beginning of my filmmaking career, I knew I wanted to be a filmmaker, but I kind of dabbled in illustrating and living a sculpting and things like that. And Tim Burton for me was kind of a guy that you could tell there was a real artist behind his work, and I always gravitated to that. And you could always see every one of his movies had that style. There's always the swirling clouds in the background of any wide shot he did, and little things like that always kind of inspired me. But the more I get older, the more I realize. I mean, even like a Darren Aronofsky, that's a director that
Oh yeah.
someone I really appreciate his work, and I was always obsessed with him growing up too. But the more I kind of dabbled in a lot of filmmakers and really kind of tried to study as many filmmakers as possible and really kind of see what they were good at and what they were bad at, and not let even like Tarantino. I think a lot of people really love Quentin Tarantino's work, but I think there's a lot of flaws in what he does. I don't think he really understands 3-act structure or even story structure as much as people would like to think he does. I think he's great at dialogue. I think he's really, really amazing at writing exceptional dialogue. But I think there's a lot of flaws in his work. But I think generally speaking, I have the most respect for Steven Spielberg as a director, just because
oh yeah, absolutely.
Genre he does. He's made a masterpiece in every genre he's played in. He's done almost every genre up at this point. So it's hard to look at a filmmaker like that just because he's successful and you want to cut the legs out from underneath him and not give him that due. So for me, Steven Spielberg is someone I always admired, just because just the way he blocks his actors and the camera and that relationship, the way he moves the camera, how he lights things, and his sort of romanticism of old school Hollywood, how he's kind of kept that alive too throughout his filmmaking. To me, I don't think it gets any better than Steven Spielberg.
Yeah, Steven Spielberg is absolutely fantastic. To me, he's a pioneer as well.
Yeah.
He came out with these ideas, and everybody goes following, like Jurassic Park, E.T., and everybody goes and do. You know what I mean? It's like pioneer. It's like I don't know if it's let me see what I can. I haven't touched in this world. Oh, okay. Let me do it about this.
He is so good at doing the most intimate character stuff in a very serious tone, and then also balancing that with a very over-the-top sort of a fantastical thing that kind of goes against that thing. So finding that tone is, I think, really hard for filmmakers or directors or even writers. And I think he just, in every movie, he just nails that tone in everything. And I'm talking just from a craftsman perspective, like you can do, a lot of people, they'll make these really serious scenes with these characters, and they'll do this really heavy scene. And then the next thing you know, then literally the scene that precedes that is like this really goofy, over the top monster thing that doesn't really mesh well with that serious thing they just did. And so finding that middle ground, I think, is where the masters of cinema kind of, I think that's what they really do well. And everything else is, I think, kind of secondary to that. And like I said too, like a lot of people, I don't think really understand the sort of the aesthetics of what looks good in front of it too. I think you can make a great movie, but if you screw up your monster design, everything else is going to be trashed just because people are going to be taken out of the movie. It's so hard to make a good monster movie, even like Jaws. Let's take Jaws, for example, obviously. Jaws is one of the greatest movies ever made. And I still think there are flaws in that movie. Maybe you could say maybe in the third act there's some pacing issues, maybe. But I think as a piece of storytelling, from a craftsman's perspective, making a shark do all those things that it did in that movie at that point in time was like, I mean, again, even the shark was breaking down and it didn't work half the time. You know what I mean? It just, most filmmakers would have melted and they just would have said, you know what, just shoot whatever and who cares? I'm just done. But that's a guy he had a good eye for knowing how to shoot it, even when it was broken, and kind of sitting in the pocket and taking those punches and still making it look great and beautiful or scary even. And, or even being clever enough to go, hey, you know what? We're not going to win this battle. We're not going to get the shark above the water because it doesn't work. So it's just going to be a shark fin half the time. That's what we're seeing. So playing into that and that looks visually terrifying anyway. Just the aesthetics of playing with that, I think, having that little nuance there, I think, is what separates the masters from the average filmmaker. So I always respected him for that kind of that thing he does in most of his movies.
Oh yeah. No, I admire him too. To me, it's one of my favorites to go to. I always watch his films just for reference and give you ideas, or
Yeah, he nails fun and serious. Like, what other filmmaker nails fun and
Yeah.
serious things and makes them work together. You know, it's always, you can make a really serious movie and tailor it to that audience that loves serious sort of slow paced movies or whatever. And then you got the other filmmakers that make really fun, boring movies that aren't smart at all, you know. And it's like there's two ends, there's two extremes, but there's two extremes for a reason, because I think a lot of lazy filmmakers kind of, they pick one or the other because they know it's hard to do both. But a filmmaker like Steven Spielberg, he knows it's hard to do both, and I think getting closer to this, bringing them closer to the center, and then, you know, knowing that's the gold standard is getting both of those tones down. That's what, to me, is just always blown my mind, the way he's approached any genre in movies made.
I will mention Charlie Chaplin.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
my biggest master of all time. He also mixed sadness with boom. You have to laugh.
Yeah, no, that's actually a great point. Yeah, and there's a reason why he's a legend, because that will never get old, because he understood the psychology of his audience and he respected it too. Right? He wasn't pandering to one half or the other, you know, and being comfortable there, knowing, oh, I'll just do this again and again because that's what they love. He knew, you know, because in a sense you kind of risk losing one half or the other by playing the both sides, and I think that's what, it's hard not to respect a filmmaker that does that, right? Like, how do you respect that?
But you have to be a master to do that too.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
because otherwise
make movies, right? It's that challenge of, how the hell am I going to make a 8 foot tall clay monster man come to life and look scary? It feels so silly that you just go, you know, how the hell is this going to work? You know, what have I done to myself? I'm going to look stupid showing this in front of, to my friends and family. You know what I mean? But that's what makes it exciting.
I think one of the other reference that I would say is Guillermo del Toro with all these monsters, absolutely beautiful and scarier and very creative. That's, you know, it's a lot of work.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, he's a huge influence too. Again, another guy that has the creative eye, but also just, he loves character and he also loves plot, and he's not trying to take the easy way out. He's not just saying, oh, this is a character driven story, I don't need to worry about plot or entertain my audience. You know, it's like he knows, no, there's a 3-act structure there, and I need to know that too, to help get more character out in front of the audience to make it more entertaining. Like he was always Guillermo del Toro was always a huge influence of mine as well. Like, Mimic was another great movie he made, I think, that doesn't get enough credit. When I watched Mimic growing up, that, I think it might have been his first movie, wasn't it? But that movie was absolutely terrifying. But it's literally about a giant cockroaches looking.
Yeah. That's his first movie, but it's in Spanish, right?
Because I know he had a couple. Maybe I think he had a couple of features before he got into Hollywood as an indie filmmaker, I believe. I could be wrong, but I want to say he had a couple features.
Yes, I saw his first movie. It's in Spanish. It's about the huge electronic cockroach.
I think the plot centers around, what is it, like they're trying to, there's some disease, and the scientist wants to cure the disease, but so they use testing on cockroaches, and they figure out the cure, but then they release all these cockroaches back into the wild under the city, and then they start evolving to look like, you know, giant cockroaches that start looking like human beings. But, you know, it's like you hear that premise, and, you know, there's only a certain kind of guy that could pull that kind of thing off. And to me, it's like, and when you watch the movie or you see the trailer and you watch the movie, as an audience member going into that, it works so well, and you go, wow, this looks great. You don't realize the guy that had to tackle that to make it look great, because on a concept level, you know, he's probably getting pitched this idea and he's going, how the hell is this going to look? I mean, this is going to look silly. Thinking about it even looks silly. It's so daunting. But only a guy like Guillermo del Toro can find that symbiotic relationship between, you know, silly and serious, and make it work. So yeah, he's one of the few that can do that.
Other ones, another one just to mention is Peter Jackson. I don't know if you see his first film with all this clay. I'm talking about clay.
Yeah.
His first movie, I forgot the name of the movie. I think it's Kate Winslet, the actress. He had some clay creatures coming to life. You should look. I forgot the name. I will let you know
Yeah,
later.
I vaguely know what you're talking about, but yeah, he's another guy too where I think people get kind of spoiled with how good he is and
Yeah.
how many great movies he made during his run. And it's sad to see that he's not even making movies anymore. He's doing like documentaries and things like that, which is
Yeah.
really a shame. So I think he could have easily been our generation Spielberg, but for some odd reason he got burnout or whatever. But yeah, that was a guy where I don't think King Kong gets as much credit. He doesn't get as much credit for King Kong as I think he should, because that movie, again, that's a thing where doing the bigatures and finding a technique that was going to sell the kind of the crazy nature of an island like that with all these fantastical monsters and things. That's another thing where most people would have went the way of CGI, and they would have just let the VFX
I
house.
know.
We don't
No,
need to worry about. But you could tell he really loves getting in there and building things and really seeing it work and making things look aesthetically pleasing to the eye. I mean, James Cameron, that's another guy too, where he's got such a great eye for not even detail, aesthetically speaking, but a guy that understands the functionality of machines and literally like is in he enjoys studying animals and plant life and really understanding how things work in nature and how things work from a design perspective before he even gets in the weeds about how to build any world he's created. And you see it in the storytelling, because he's literally hands on. He's working with everything. He has a giant team to help speed up the process, but that's why those movies kind of look like they have that sort of that artist touch, but they're not straying away from what they are as artists, I guess.
yeah, no. Another one just to mention craziness. Ridley Scott is also
Yeah, yeah,
another one that does. I love Prometheus. It's the
yeah,
aesthetic
yeah,
and the beautiness,
yeah,
even though it's a alien movie, but it's just
yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, because that was another one too. In the theater, you sit down, you watch, you're like, well, this feels real. The
yeah.
practicality of the sets feel real. And they were doing a lot of CG and stuff, but knowing when to use CG and when not to, when knowing anything your audience is going to, or rather the characters in the movie are touching, that should be built. Like having that awareness to know, hey, if we use CG here, the audience is not going to believe it, because in CG doing shadows, for some odd reason, we just can't nail shadows right. So like if a character in a movie touches something, a lot of bad filmmakers will say, oh, we can make that in CG. It's like, well, you can, but it's going to look like crap.
It looks like crap. Yeah.
Yeah. So those guys like Ridley Scott, they're going, well, no, if a character touches it, we need to build it practically, because the CG isn't good enough to get us across that finish line for the audience. And having that respect for the audience, and also not being, I think having the courage to know it's on me if this sucks, because we're building it practically. It's going to cost more, but it's going to make the movie better. Ultimately, and the CG can come in where it needs to be as obviously a last resort, but let's not just throw everything to the CG guys and say fix it. Like that's what
No.
filmmaking is. But he's huge about that.
Oh,
Really,
yeah.
that's awesome.
Right. And one of the mission on this film festival is to, as I said, is oriented new filmmakers that come, students that they see the impossibility of making a film. Do you have any message to the student or people who wants to make a film? What will you tell them?
I would say at the end of the day, you have to go through things yourself and experience things yourself. You're going to hear a lot of things from a lot of different people, and some things will be great, some things will be wrong. But ultimately, you have to get your butt out there, and you got to play with things, and you got to see also where your strengths are and where they're not, and not being scared to say, "Hey, this is a weakness of mine. I got to go tackle this. I'm not gonna ask a writer to write my script. I got to go figure out what writing is. Like to take writing as an example. One of my weaknesses was writing. I hated writing. I grew up never wanting to write anything in my life. Like I always loved and appreciated and admired great screenwriters, but growing up, I always wanted to direct. But ultimately, my weakness was writing. So I said, hey, you know what? I need to learn how to write, because ultimately I'm a storyteller. I should know how to tell a great story in any form before I go out and I shoot it and I cast it and I do all these crazy things. So don't be scared to do things and figure out where your weaknesses are and really going in that direction. Find out where your weaknesses are and face those challenges head on and master that, and everything else is going to be a lot easier for you. But you got to really own those flaws and fix them. And don't be
Yeah.
scared. Don't be scared to fail. It's corny, but it's absolutely true. You cannot be scared to fail. No one's going to come by and hold your hand and take you through the journey. You gotta be the one that forces people to go out there and make a movie. It's no one's the cavalry is not coming. That's something I always like to say. Ultimately,
Yeah, I agree with you, and also it's people is gonna come to discourage you and tell you
yeah,
not to do this, not to do that, and because it's an art,
yeah,
and people is always gonna come and tell you stuff, and I always tell them you can't listen to those things. You have to go through whatever is whatever you imagine, whatever is your vision. Go through it, and don't listen to anybody because people is gonna always come and tell
yeah,
you, pull you down. You work with the team, of course, and there's sometimes you hear something that is going to improve or enhance your craft. Good, but if it's something negative, just
yeah,
forget about it because
yeah,
yeah. And the funny
yeah.
thing is,
Agree more.
um, right now everybody think that they're a filmmaker, and
Yeah,
it's no. It takes a lot of work.
yes, it does. Yeah,
It does,
yeah,
and it's a talent, and it's a very very difficult thing to do. And not because you have a phone, you can just shoot
yeah,
a. You maybe you're a
yeah,
genius. I'm
yeah,
not saying no. It requires a lot
yeah,
of little details,
yeah,
and it is important that one more time work very 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 hard. And in a case of especially independent films,
yeah,
you pretty much had to do everything like you
yeah.
did in this film.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, and I couldn't agree with you more. And I think that point, as much as people do kind of mention that sometimes, it's just never stressed enough.
No.
Uh, and more so to your point about people always criticizing someone for doing anything. And in filmmaking, I think it's a really big problem. I think people, other filmmakers love bashing other people's stuff because it is so hard. So when you see someone doing well, people are very jealous people they're very jealous things by nature. And I'll say this too, the better you get at something, it gets worse with people, I would say. The
Yeah.
better you get at something, the more hate you're actually going to get. So if you think it's crippling now to have haters try to descend upon you and make you feel like you're not worth investing in yourself and making things, it's only going to get worse. Take my word for it. It will get worse the
It
better
did.
you
I
get.
know. I
So,
agree with you.
yeah.
It's gonna get worse.
Yeah. So, but you got to embrace it, and that's something that if you know, hey, it's only going to get worse from now. Like I said, you figure out real quick if it's something you want to do. But in a lot of ways, I moved out to LA a couple times, and every time I moved back, due to financial problems or whatever, I tried killing my passion for filmmaking multiple times, just because it is so hard. It's one of the only art forms or mediums rather that requires a lot of money to do properly. Otherwise, you're just
Correct.
making something that no one wants to watch. Regardless of what your movie's about, if it doesn't look like you gave a crap about the presentation of what you're trying to tell somebody, people aren't going to want to watch it. So because there's so much money that has to be sort of funneled into your movie to make it look presentable to an audience, it's really hard to say or even to play with small short films because you go, man, I don't even know if I can make it look good. Well, yeah, maybe, but you got to try. At some point, you got to try, and you're going to fail, and it's going to suck, and you're going to have people crap on you for not doing this right or not having this thing to make it look as professional as the next guy. But you can't worry about other filmmakers and where they're at in their journey. You really just have to say, this is where I'm at now, and nothing else matters. I'm just going to keep doing it because you have that urge to want to make movies and to say something or to entertain people or do both. And it's an urge that you can't kill. So you're going to figure out going out into the world trying to make movies how much of a filmmaker you really are, right? Because you got the haters, you got the financial problems that are going to come your way, and it's going to keep happening. It's going to keep getting worse. It's going to get more stressful. But when when I moved back from LA several times, my thing was I was like, man, I don't want to keep doing this to myself. Why am I doing this to myself?
I
It's such
know.
a hard thing to do. Why do I love it so much? And I tried stopping it, but it just keeps emerging again and again and again. And once you know that's not going away, you can't kill that urge to be an artist or a filmmaker or whatever.
Yeah.
Then you just have to go, okay, something else that's not going away are the haters and the financial burdens that come with that, and it's only going to get harder, in fact, and just embrace it and then have fun screwing up and making movies, because that's what it's about. It's about doing it, having fun, and
About doing it, I guess. Yeah, I love that. I love that phrase. It's about doing it, whatever you do. And I always said this: maybe you get famous or recognize or a lot of recognition for what you done. Maybe you don't, but it's in here.
yeah,
It's your
yeah,
the passion, your
yeah,
love. It's just up there.
yeah,
And I always said this: one day we as an artist, we are not going to be here, but our art is
yeah,
going to be there for the
yeah,
future. So you want to make it as most perfect as possible, so
yes.
you be recognized one day
Yeah,
as.
that's a great point. Yeah, it's about art. It's not about you. Get your ego and the fear out of the way. It's about the art. Yeah, that. Yeah, you couldn't have hit the nail on the head better. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely, Brian. I cannot thank you enough.
Yeah,
For,
thank you for having me on. I had a blast. Thank you, sir.
absolutely, and I cannot wait to see you in the New England Film Festival.
Awesome. Thank you.
New England Film Festival.